Hey y'all, welcome to a best of edition of the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. These best of editions of the show feature amazing guests and episodes of the podcast you may have missed when they first aired. If you are new to the show, these are those can't miss episodes we really want you to listen to. Or maybe you're a long-time listener. We want to bring these episodes back around for you to enjoy again. Our goal is to bring you our best content every week so you have everything that you need to build a better future for your family. So wherever you are listening today, enjoy this week's best of edition of the Flip Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast, where life always comes before work. We're your hosts, Shane and Jocelyn Sams. We're a real family that figured out how to make our entire living online. And now we help other families do the same. Are you ready to flip your life? All right, let's get started. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. Super excited to be back with you again today, where we are continuing with our story of our entrepreneurial journey. We're taking you back to where it all got started, and we're giving you some information about our background to show you what it was like before we were entrepreneurs, and basically take you on the journey of us starting from nothing and building a massive online business that has just produced a lifestyle that we could never have even imagined before we discovered online business. And last time we left off, Jocelyn and I had graduated college. We moved out of the dorms and out of the apartments and out of the college life, and we moved ourselves back to my hometown. And we did not get married at this time. We actually each had our own apartments. We had our own jobs. I was selling insurance for my dad. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I went to work for my dad at his insurance agency.
And I had to start looking for jobs. This was no longer practice adulting. This was real adulting. So
take the training wheels off, right?
Yeah. And for me, finding a job was not exactly easy. I'm going into a town where I know absolutely no one. Shane and I, we thought we were too young to get married. I decided, okay, well, I'll just move to your hometown and try to find a job. And I, as a 21-year-old female who have been dating her boyfriend for 3 years, thinks that, hopefully Shane will start to grow up at some point and maybe he will be interested in getting married, but we were still kind of just not really ready. So we decided just to move into our own apartments.
We did live in the same apartment building, though. That was pretty cool.
So it's sort of like the dorm?
It was sort of like dorm plus, you know what I mean? Like what floor was I on? I was on the third floor, and you were on the second. Yeah. So we had our own apartments, we had our own things, and when we moved back here, my dad would pick up Jocelyn and drive her around town, just introducing her to random people, as many people as possible.
And in every industry you can imagine.
Oh, my goodness. Not even related to your degree.
I probably applied for 50 to 60 jobs, all different kind of jobs, because you have to remember that where we're from is a very small area. There are not a huge amount of job opportunities
available. Especially professional job opportunities for a young college-educated woman, basically.
Someone with a business degree. I started learning that business probably wasn't the right choice for the area that I was in because, first of all, there are a lot of professional types of jobs around here, but they all require a specialized degree. You can get a medical job, you can get an education job.
A lawyer.
Other types of professional jobs, but there just aren't a lot of big companies around here. I mean, the population just doesn't support that. So I got probably 30 to 40 rejection letters. I joked and said I was going to start wallpapering my wall with "Thank you for your interest," but I got so many of those I cannot even tell you. And you start to feel down after a while.
Oh, that was I can remember how kind of demoralized you were, because it was like, what are we going to do? Am I going to have to go to fold sweaters at JCPenney's or,
And at that point, I was even starting to apply for things like that because, I had to pay my bills somehow. So I was really starting to get discouraged. Back in the 80s, people would tell you, okay, if you go to college and get a degree, you can get any job you want. Well, I was just laughing because I'm like, that's not happening for me.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't this magical experience that I thought it was going to be after I got my college degree.
And that kind of was something that changed in around 2000 when we graduated. College degrees started becoming worth a little bit less. And it was harder to go out and get a job and be competitive, especially in smaller rural places where everybody was a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or a coal miner, or a railroader, or they worked at Walmart. Like, that's pretty much what everybody was doing. So there wasn't really a lot for Jocelyn in the area. So then what happened, Jocelyn and I were out on a walk one day, and we ran into a lady that I knew. I went to school with her son. And by total chance, Jocelyn actually knew him. She had met him before she met me.
It was like a mutual friend.
And so I introduced her to Jocelyn. They realized there was a connection there.
All right. So we're walking around in town. We're, just exercising. And we run into this lady, and her name is Frances. I'll never forget her. But anyway, she just happened to be the vice president of human resources for a corporation in the next town over. Well, I didn't even know this company existed. So she was asking me, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, actually, I'm looking for a job. And at the time, I didn't know she was in human resources. I just said, I'm just looking for a job, applying for different stuff. And she said, well, it just so happens that we're looking for something called a technical writer at this company. And I'm like, well, okay, like, I'm kind of a technical person. Like, I can maybe do that.
What kind of technical? What is this company?
So it was basically like an engineering position for a corporation. And what they did is they manufactured commercial dishwashers. These are the kind that you see in like big restaurants, big stainless steel things. That's what they manufacture. So I have no idea what I'm going in for. I mean, I'm so inexperienced. I have such little interview experience.
Definitely never had to write technical books for designing dishwashers in the old college days. So,
but I felt like it was something that I could do if I had to. So I'm like, yeah, I could probably do that. So I go in, I talk to her, and she's like, okay, well, the president's going to be here like next week. So, I'll let you know if we want you to come back in. So I'm like, okay. Well, the next week she actually called me back. Now, this is one of the first calls I've gotten back, so I'm really excited about it. So she's like, okay, our president's here, and he wants you to come in because I don't know that the technical writer is a good fit for you, but we may have something else. And I'm like, okay.
Awesome.
So I get dressed up. I'll never forget. I wore this, like, it was a skirt and a gray buttoned top. It had short sleeves. This is like a little suit. It was really cheap. I mean, I probably bought it for like, $30 or $40.
I remember that outfit that you wore. I totally remember.
Yeah,
that.
I don't remember where I got it, but I mean, I'm sure it was just like a department store or something. So I was really nervous. I mean, I'm 21. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I go in to talk to the president of this company. So he was interesting, telling me about how he had gout and stuff. I don't know. Like, I still remember this so vividly. So I go in and talk to him.
That's what you want to hear on an interview. Like, so about my gout. Have you seen my gout? I mean, you ever seen gout this bad, dear? I know you're 21 and gout's not on your radar, but it's on mine.
He really did talk to me about gout. But anyway, so what came of this, though, he told me that they were looking for somebody to work in the marketing department. They needed basically a marketing assistant. And so I was like, okay, now I think I can do this. So he seemed to like me, and, Frances was in there too, and she kind of was talking about me. And so I ended up getting the job and had absolutely no idea what I was doing. It was definitely an eye-opening experience going into this corporation where no one and basically nothing about working in a real job. So that was in August of 2001. And for anybody who knows anything about American history, that 1 month later on September 11th that everything changed.
Yeah.
And for someone who was brand new in this corporate office, I have no experience. I have nothing. I don't have any friends, really. I mean, it was scary. It was scary for everyone in America, but it was really scary for someone who didn't know what was going on. So I can still remember I was in the restroom of the place that I worked when I heard about all this. So anyway, people a few weeks later started losing their jobs, and, this was just a common thing. The markets kind of crashed. Everybody starts losing their jobs. And even the person who helped me get the job, Frances, she got laid off.
Lost her job. Yeah.
So I felt terrible. It was just a really scary time. I had no idea what was happening. I mean, 1 month after I get this job, people start getting laid off, and not just a few people. I mean, it was a lot of people. So I ended up surviving a lot of different rounds of layoffs at that company through the years, but I can just remember that being a super scary time.
So Jocelyn is in this new environment, new place, and it was always crazy when they were laying people off at that place, because it really did happen right around September 11th, and when the markets kind of got disrupted by the war and everything else, it was like it really hurt your industry a lot, and they just laid off so many people, and like it was like when you started there compared to where you end there was only like a couple people left. Like even the presidents and CEOs and vice presidents and everything else. So while Jocelyn's going through all of this, you know, getting a real corporate education in as fast a time as possible, I was working at my dad's insurance agency. He had a little satellite office in the next town over. It was this little room. It couldn't have been, oh my goodness, it was like 10 by 12. It was like a glorified cubicle, basically, on this highway that kind of connected my town from the next town over. It was just very secretarial, somewhat sales work. It was kind of an automated system. People would call in, get a quote, come in. You'd write their policy.
It was very procedural.
Very procedural and robotic. And
if anybody knows Shane, that is not the kind of work he enjoys at all.
No. Like 2 weeks into it, I was just like contemplating ways to bash my head through my desk. You know, I was like so bored all the time. And I just really did not like that job. And it wasn't because of my dad or my family who was in the business with us. It just wasn't for me. And I can actually remember standing one day. How long were we there? Was it like a year and a half or 2 years maybe?
I think we were there for 2 years.
Yeah, it was close to 2 years. It was almost 2 years. And I can just remember about a year and a half in, I was standing at my filing cabinet. I have my filing cabinet by my desk of insurance policies. And I leaned over on the filing cabinet, and it was a real slow day. Nobody was really coming in. And I was looking out the window, and there was like this cow pasture.
Because Kentucky.
Because it's Kentucky. Like across, there was like 100 head of cattle just walking around in this pond. And I can remember looking over at those cows and be like, man, those cows are free. Look at them. They just walk around, eat grass, jump in that pond, whatever. They're doing whatever they want. And I'm like, I'm trapped in this little thing. And I was like, am I really going to do this for the rest of my life? And I was like, you know, I could. And I would sit and think about things like, I can make a living, you know, and if me and Jocelyn get married, then we can afford and support everything. And, you know, my kids would have food and all that good stuff. But I really just started asking myself, do I want to live like this? And I'm not knocking it. Some people love it. You know, my dad loves the insurance agency. He loves it. And
I think part of that is because your dad and your brother sort of like built that business. So it was already an established business when you came in. So they wanted you to do things their way. And
I don't do things people's way. Like, I just don't. Yeah. I mean, I just don't dig that. And it was like, even though I felt like I would have maybe had my own office someday, and I just didn't feel like I just couldn't do it. I just could not do that. So I started really thinking about my life. And of course I had my teaching degree, so I thought about being a teacher, but even that wasn't totally appealing to me because it was still the same thing. I mean, being structured, being on a schedule and everything else. So I started thinking, how can I have fun and make money?
And Shane was still, well, to put it nicely, a little immature. So, you know,
I'm still kind of a little immature.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 39 years old and I'm still kind of, you know, a kid.
Yeah. But, you know, I think what I was expecting when we came to this town is that, okay, we're out of college. We'll have a couple of years to like get our career started. And then like Shane will grow up and become the, you know, husband type figure that I need in my life.
Are you saying I wasn't a husband type figure?
Well, not at that time.
Because
no.
you were totally like grade A, 100% quality wife material at that time. I mean, you were hot. You worked hard. You were just like perfect wife material. And I was sitting over there not being husband material.
Well, I'm not saying that you weren't husband material in that way.
If you're saying husband material, meaning like you have a giant stone and you would cut the statue out of it, and somewhere deep within all that marble is something that resembles husband material, then maybe, yes.
No, I just don't think that you were in a place where you were ready to get married. And I'm not 100% sure that I was either. But like, I think part of it was just because, you know, we realized we never talked about this before. We were preparing for this podcast, and he was like, you know, why did you let me move away, which we were getting ready to get to. But I was like, well, you know, I just knew that you would never grow up. Shane is what some people might call a mama's boy.
I am not a mama's boy anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
But at the time, like, you know, he was just really still dependent on his parents a lot. And I was very independent. I've been very independent since the age of 17. Like, you know, I just really didn't need people to affirm my decisions or like take care of me in any way. And I felt like we just weren't on the same mental plane at that time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That was a nice way. That was a nice assessment.
That was very diplomatic by you. Thank you. Thank you for holding back on me. But no, I totally agree because and like I just felt like so much uncertainty. I think that's another reason like I was really hesitant to get married too, because I recognized that I just wasn't ready for that. I didn't know what I wanted out of my career, out of life. I did know that I wanted to marry you. I knew that eventually.
And I think
I wanted us to get married.
I think both of us knew that would happen eventually. But at that time, like, I think we were just at a crossroads. Like, you know, you weren't happy. I was not insanely happy. I was happy enough. And I just knew that without some major catalyst, we were not ever going to be on the same page.
Right. So what happened at that point when I was standing there watching the cows swim in the pond, eat their grass, and I was longing to be the cow, to be free like the cow in the field. And I was like, I can't do insurance anymore. I can't do this. So I basically said, hey, what about football? I had gotten hurt in high school. I was a really good football player, and it was kind of like what defined me. And I remember just such a mental change in my life, how different it was after I got hurt and I couldn't play football anymore. And I always regretted it. It was one of those things I was like,
I think you just felt sort of like incomplete.
It did. It felt
without being able to close that chapter.
Yeah, like I felt like there was this open chapter in my life that never closed because I never got to finish my career and do those things. Like I can remember on senior night, I walked with the players and everybody was on the field. And I went out on the field in my street clothes and my jersey. And I just stood there in between my mom and dad and just cried. I mean, I just cried my eyes out because I didn't get to play my senior year. I didn't get to I didn't get to enjoy that, you know, the thing you'd worked so hard for since you were a kid.
And if you missed that episode, it's because he had a major knee injury.
Yeah, I had a major knee injury. I blew my knee out. It was a horrific injury.
And if you see him today, you'll see very large scars on both knees.
Yeah. I started thinking about football again, and I loved games. I love strategy. I just love all those things, and I love competition. I'm so competitive.
And like, I think you just felt like you needed to use your mind for something other than like
I had to be creative.
Robotic tasks.
Yes,
like you needed to be able to blossom and like get your ideas out there, be a leader, be a strategist. Like that was something that was really important to you. And I don't think that you had that opportunity.
No, I did not have that opportunity in selling insurance. No, I did not. So I started thinking, man, wouldn't it be awesome to prepare for a new team every week, to go to war on Friday nights and to be able to lead kids into battle and be able to unite with a bunch of men and, you know, like create war plans and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I'm already a teacher. I've got an education degree. So that's an ends to that means. Maybe I can do football. So I started looking around on the internet for how to get into football coaching. I mean, I figured you had to have been some, you know, collegiate player or something to do it. And I ended up finding this school in Daphne, Alabama called the United States Sports Academy. And they had a master's degree program in, you could basically become a football, it was for sports coaching and athletic director.
I think at the time, though, you had your sights sort of set more like on a college.
I did, for sure. I was thinking like something bigger than that. But that was like my backup plan was to coach high school, worst case scenario. But I wanted to coach somewhere big.
You really wanted to get around some people who were big names in the industry so that you could make connections that would help you in the future.
Right. So I figured out that Mike Leach, the head football coach at the time at Texas Tech, went to this school, and I was like, I'm going to call him. I don't know him. I'm just going to call his office. Because
that's how Shane rolls.
Because that's how I roll. You know what I'm saying? You call the head football coach at Texas Tech when you need an answer, right?
And he called him back.
And I called him, and he called me back. He sure did. And I was sitting in my dad's office, working at his office that day, and I get a phone call, and I hear, "Hey, Shane, this is Mike Leach, head football coach at Texas Tech." And I just looked at my phone like,
Did that really
just happen? I called him and left a message, and he called me back. And he basically told me, he was like, he went to school there. He loved it. He was in a similar situation. He had been a lawyer, and he wanted to get into football coaching. So he looked for this place, and he found this place, went to school there, and it led to his football coaching career. And I was like, that's awesome. So
Jocelyn really encouraged me to do this. Like soon as I brought it up, she was like, you have got to do this. You've got to try.
I saw how just defeated you were as a person, and that's not who you are. And I just knew deep down that if you don't do this, like it will never work out between us. Like we will never be happy.
Yeah.
So I just knew that it was time for you to leave the nest, now or never.
Yeah. So Jocelyn got in a car with me. We drove 13 hours down to Daphne, Alabama, checked out the school, asked them some more questions, hung out there for a little while to get used to the area. And then, driving back, we came back and talked about it. And I just decided I had to do it. But it was scary because at the end of that conversation, we both basically looked at each other and we're kind of like, we knew that this meant we were going to have to separate for a little while. Jocelyn couldn't go to Alabama and look for another job and all that stuff.
Because I was climbing the corporate ladder.
Climbing that corporate ladder, baby, And so we knew that we were going to have to separate. She wasn't going to stay either because she had nothing there.
I didn't have anything here.
If I wasn't there, nothing was there for her. So Jocelyn decided to move to Lexington. Did you commute back to the thing, or did they let you work at home at this time?
So basically, all right, at this time, I started out as the marketing assistant. Well, things happened. People got laid off. I ended up becoming what was called the marketing coordinator, I think was my...
Yeah, that's what it was.
My title, I think. So basically, I was responsible for all marketing for this corporation, which is a little scary, but I actually did a really good job. I traveled a lot. I got to go to trade shows. I traveled to many states in the United States. I got to go to Europe and got to go to Canada a couple times. I mean, it was a really exciting job for most early 20-year-olds, but I was not incredibly happy. It was okay.
Paid the bills.
It paid the bills. But at that time, I was just, I was a little bit sad because Shane and I were parting ways.
And we really didn't know what was going on. Like, I remember, like, your mom and dad came or something, and, like, you all packed up your stuff to, like, move to Lexington. And I vividly remember me driving out of the parking lot that day and, like, seeing that in the rearview mirror. And, like, I can remember, like, almost throwing up, going, oh, my God, is this the last time I'm going to be able to see her or something? It really scared me that at that moment to go down there. It really did.
Yeah, I really didn't know what was going to happen at that point. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. So basically, I went into my company and I'm like, look, I'm not going to be living here anymore. So there's one of two things that's going to happen. Either I'm leaving or you guys can let me work remotely. Like,
man, we were hardcore.
For me to say that,
yeah,
I mean, that's like, okay, I was an early 20-something-year-old person. I'm not even comfortable saying things like that now in my late 30s. Like, I still to this day cannot believe that I went in there and gave them this ultimatum.
This was before people did stuff like that too. Like, this was before people could work remotely really on the internet. It wasn't like the culture of working remotely existed really, and especially not in a small manufacturing corporation that was a part of a larger corporation in Southeast Kentucky. Like, that just wasn't a thing,
So my original plan, and I had already signed up for classes. I was going to temporarily move home with my mom and dad just until I could, like, get back on my feet and figure things out. I was going to leave my job. I had already signed up for classes to do pre-physical therapy. That's what I thought I wanted to do with my life because I was interested in fitness. I was interested in health. And so I thought
that would have been the worst fit. That would have been worse. That would have been the worst possible because Jocelyn,
like being around people all the time.
Yeah, like Jocelyn is like an introverted kind of person. She doesn't even like to touch me when I get sweaty. And like, like outside, like we'll be walking outside and like we'll be taking a walk. We'll hold hands for a minute. And then she'll be like, okay, you're sweating now. I'm not going to hold your hand anymore. And then but I can't imagine you like rubbing someone's thighs. Like, this is really going to bring back the musculature in this. But that would be the worst job, worst possible job ever.
I don't know what I was thinking, but like I had already signed up for classes and everything. So I go in and talk to my company and I'm like, look, I'm going to have to leave because I'm moving out of the area and I just don't think this is going to work. And they're like, whoa, hold on. Because they're like, we really, really want you to be here.
They loved Jocelyn. They adopted her. She was not only really good at her job in an adult fashion, but like all the people in your company were like older.
Their little sis.
Yes, you were like the daughter of the organization.
Some of them I really could have been their daughter. Right. Yes, but some of them, it was like their little sister. I mean, they were just like very protective over me, and like I helped them do their jobs. I mean, I was very good at what I did because I throw myself into everything that I do. So they really didn't want me to leave, and they're like, "Look, what if we let you work from home and they knew I wanted to take classes. I don't think I told them what kind of classes I was going to take. So then they were like, well, we'll even pay for you to get your MBA. And I'm like,
Deal.
Okay, that's interesting. So then I sort of changed my plans. I went and canceled every class that I had signed up for. The people at the college that I went to, they thought I was nuts. They're like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And if you know anything about Shane and myself, we were very decisive people. Like once we decide to do something, we're doing it. So I canceled all my classes. I went and found an apartment in Lexington, which is where we had gone to undergraduate. And I signed up for MBA classes because I'm like, free MBA, still work.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And they were letting her work remotely. How many did you have to come down every week for meetings?
I came down sometimes, not every week, but I did come down sometimes.
Yeah.
So I ended up moving to Lexington, and I was still working, still going to trade shows, still coming down for meetings, all that type of thing, and taking MBA classes. Well, I really didn't love the MBA classes, so I'm officially an MBA dropout.
Once again, decisive. I like this. I don't like this. I'm out. Yeah.
Well, they were paying for it, and then when I left the company, I didn't really want to pay for it anymore.
But that was later, though.
That was a little bit later, but
so during this time,
I'm an MBA dropout, just so you know. Fun fact.
So Jocelyn ends up pretty quickly in Lexington, and I move down to basically Daphne, Alabama, and I start taking classes. I start going down there, and I actually went to a high school and asked them if I could be like an intern. They actually had interns from the school that I was going to down there from my master's program. And it was a high school there called Daphne High School. They were really good. It was a nationally ranked program in USA Today. They had just gotten beat in the state championship game like the year before by Hoover, if anybody knows about football, which is a really big football program in Alabama. Huge school. And I got to coach freshmen, and I got to be like on the high school staff, so I could sit in meetings and stuff. But then pretty much I had to film on Friday nights. So I would coach JV and freshmen 2 days a week and help with that, and then help at practice a little bit. And then I would do film work and all that stuff. But it was a ridiculous experience. We went to the state championship and got beat in the finals. We were undefeated until the finals. Just a ridiculous experience. My freshman team that I was a coach on, I coached defensive backs and wide receivers. We won the county championship. We were undefeated. I think we lost one game, but we avenged the loss in the final. So I had this awesome experience. But the most incredible thing was they had 7 Division I prospects on that football team. And my goal was to be a college football coach. I wanted to climb that corporate ladder, and try to someday be a college head coach. And I got to meet coaches from everywhere: Florida State, LSU, West Virginia, Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, you name it, everywhere in the country. We're recruiting players from our team because we had this really special athlete named Pat White. And basically he had 70 or 80 scholarship offers. So I got to meet all these people. So I met a guy named Rick Trickett, who was the offensive line coach at West Virginia. And when he met me and I told him where I was from, he said, "Hey, we've got a guy named Steve on our staff, and he's from your hometown." And I knew who this guy was. And I said, I didn't know he was there. So I got my brother, my oldest brother, to hook me up with him, and we got to talking. And basically after the season ended, I moved back to my hometown in order to start applying for college jobs because I had some experience now and all these connections I'd made. And I got a hold of the guy that was from my hometown. I got a hold of Coach Trickett again, and I applied for a job at West Virginia University. They had a graduate assistant position open. I would be the graduate assistant to the head coach. Rich Rodriguez.
So Shane starts telling me about this, and I'm going to go up there to West Virginia, and I'm going to try and get this job. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Because that's aiming high. That was you've had one season of experience of football coaching, and you were just a freshman coach, and you're trying to apply. These jobs usually go to people who played at those schools. A senior graduates, they get to be a graduate assistant and because you get a free master's degree out of it.
So I'm like, this is going to be a total waste of time. And by the way, we're still talking during this time, but
we've talked pretty much every day while we were separated. When I actually moved from Daphne, Jocelyn and my dad went and rented a big van. This is how I knew that Jocelyn loved me, by the way, for sure. Even being apart and being stupid and being immature, Jocelyn got in a truck with my dad and drove 13 hours to help me pack and move back home. And didn't it like rain and you about died or something on the way down
it was
there?
like super dangerous on the way down there. Like I wasn't real sure we were going to make it.
This is also the moment my dad fell absolutely in love with you and told me, when I got back, he basically said, after spending all that time with you on that drive, he was like, if you don't marry her, then I'm going to see if she'll marry your brother or something, because she is going to be in our family, and that's just the way it is. But anyway, Jocelyn's like, yeah, she's like, are you sure you want to do this? Shouldn't you try to get a little more experience or something?
And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, there is no way this is going to work out. I mean, he's going to drive up to West Virginia, waste all this time, and they're going to be like, yeah, right, buddy. Don't want to hire you.
But that's not how I roll. I'm a big believer in walk over, kick the door in, and act like you own the place, and good things will happen. Okay. So I got in a car, drove to West Virginia, and my dad came with me, didn't he? Yeah, my dad drove up there with me. My dad was really supportive in all of this. So my dad drives up with me, and I go to this interview, and I think I went to Walmart to buy a suit coat or something. I wore the cheapest suit coat I could find. It was like, I think I spent like $75 total on my suit that I wore to this interview, and went in and met the coach, had a really good interview. The guy that I knew there showed me around, got to hang out with Coach Trickett, got to meet some cool players. It was just amazing. There's a big, huge facility, had a 30,000 square foot weight room, indoor training facility. I mean, this was big time college football, and they had just given a scholarship to Pat White, who had played on the team I coached for. So I thought, man, I got a good in. So all the stars aligned, and it just was a really good experience. And the coach said, hey, I've got 3 or 4 more people I need to interview, and we'll be in touch one way or the other. I'll let you know. So we come back home, and I remember me and you were eating somewhere. Where were we or something?
I don't remember offhand.
Yeah, something happened. Like I was out to dinner. No, it was me and you and my mom and dad, and we were in a restaurant. And I looked down, and a West Virginia area code was on my phone. So I just jumped up and went outside the table, and I answered the phone. I said, hey, this is Shane. And Coach Rodriguez said, hey, Shane, this is Rich Rodriguez. Just wanted to let you know that we've decided to give you a shot, and we'd love for you to come be a part of our program. So I came back in, and I just told him I got the job. And it was just like incredible, because now here was this amazing opportunity. I was about to just go move to West Virginia and start this coaching career that I had dreamed about a year ago. Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is what I'm supposed to be doing in my life.
This is the path I'm supposed to take. And, to get an opportunity like that, I can't stress enough, like how huge of an opportunity that was for someone with as little experience playing and coaching as I had at the time. I mean, I was going to go get a master's degree for free, so I could actually go get my master's in education. And if I ever wanted to go teach or anything, I could. It was just such a good opportunity, and I didn't even know how to react to it, basically.
And I just want to throw in there that I think that that's where a lot of your just try something and see what happens comes from, because I would have never done that. Like, I would have never even contacted them to see if I could come and get an interview, because I would just assume that it wouldn't work out.
Like you weren't ready to have a job like that, or they wouldn't even consider you.
You don't assume that ever about anything.
No.
Like, you assume that things will work out no matter what. And a lot of times for you, they do. And it's not because of magic. It's not because you're lucky. It's because you take chances and do things.
Yeah. I had people like really doubt me when we went to the coaching thing. I won't name names, but like I had someone really close to me when I was leaving for Alabama. They gave me a hug, and, I gave them a hug, and I was, it was kind of emotional. And instead of saying good luck or go get them or do something like that, this person who I was close to basically looked at me and said, go get this out of your system. We'll be here when you get back. That kind of infuriated me a little bit. It discouraged me somewhat when it first came out of their mouth. But I was so furious to prove that person and all the doubters wrong that I just basically said, screw it. I'm going to do everything I can to go as high as I can to prove them wrong. And I think that's one reason I applied for that job. I was just like, why not try? What are they going to do? Say no? I mean, that was the worst case scenario I was ever going to say no. And like, I'd have to go do something else. So, I just went after it.
That's another thing about us too, is like, we've learned to turn our backs on negativity
and haters and doubters. And
that's something that is like so critical for what we do today. Like, if we let things bother us all the time, I mean, things do bother me. I'm not going to say that they don't, but if I dwell on that, then I wouldn't be here today, because I would have given up a long time ago.
What do they say? It's like, it's always a strike if you don't swing at it. Right. So I just swung. So basically what happened here then was Jocelyn and I
found ourselves at a new crossroads. I had to move to Morgantown, West Virginia immediately. The coach was like, I'll see you Monday at the staff meeting, basically. So I had like a week or two to get there. So I had to find a place to stay. I got a hotel, then found an apartment, and I've got settled in like in a day. And like I was literally in a staff meeting in like a week or two. Like there was no screwing around. This was like the job starts, get up here. I had to move again. Jocelyn and I hadn't even had a chance to even figure out what we were doing next in our relationship because she still lived in Lexington. And all of a sudden I'm passing back from Alabama through my hometown back to Morgantown. So I go there, I work for a couple weeks, and we have a staff meeting. And Coach Rod basically says, I hope you've had a great summer. Spent some good time with your family. You know what it means to be a college football coach and working for me. Basically on July 5th, we're all going to go on vacation for 2 weeks. When we come back on July 5th, kiss your wife and children goodbye. The football season starts and you'll see them again in February after recruiting. Literally, word for word said that. You know, because it's a 365-day-a-year job when you're a college football coach. I mean, and it's 7 a.m. to 11, 6 days a week. I mean, it's a rough road to hoe. When he said that, I thought to myself, crap, what am I going to do? What are me and Jocelyn going to do? How are we going to what are we going to do? We can't be apart that long, and I'll never see her. I'll never talk to her. I called Jocelyn and said, we're going to be off for 2 weeks for vacation. I have to be at a staff meeting on the 5th. This was like May or something when I called Jocelyn. And I said, basically, if we don't get married now, I don't know if we'll ever have a chance to do it.
No, it wasn't exactly like that. You're like, maybe we should like get married and you could just like move up here. And
right.
I'm like, oh, okay.
That makes sense. Like, yeah, I was like,
that's a logical choice.
Yeah, I was like, if we don't do it now, we'll have to wait at least until next year. And we'd already been dating like 6.5 years at this time. So people were starting to like wonder about us, And I said, the next time he said we would be free would be next year. So, like, you think we should just get married and move up here?
Yeah, that'd be all right.
That sounds good. Yeah. So Jocelyn and I, decided, basically.
Mutually decided.
Yeah, that we would get married. And we had basically July 3rd to do it because I had to be at a staff meeting on July 5th. So we planned a wedding very fast. And
in like just a few weeks.
And it was just totally like the most unromantic thing ever. Like there was no drop down and proposal. It was kind of like, I'll meet you on the 3rd. You'll be there? Okay.
I have the 3rd free.
I got the 3rd free.
Yeah,
Do you?
Yeah, I got the 3rd free.
And like Jocelyn picked out her own engagement ring because like I couldn't afford an engagement ring. It was like $200 or something. And and like she went to a mall and got her own. And wasn't it like your birthstone?
You did go with me. Yes.
Oh, I did go with you. Yeah, we got together.
I need
That's
to get
right.
a picture of it.
That's right.
I still have it.
We went to the mall and you picked out like a birthstone engagement ring because we couldn't afford a diamond or something.
Yeah, and I liked it too.
And you loved it, and it was awesome. And that's how I really knew Jocelyn loved me because it wasn't about the ring; it was about the love in her heart for me. Right. And then,
right.
Yeah. So basically, and then we went and got married on July 3rd, and we got into a car. We drove 13 hours or something back to Morgantown. And I went to a staff meeting, and we were married. So we'll talk more about that and a little bit more about that story next time because we're really starting to get into the meat of our journey where I feel like if you look at our life, like, there was a mountaintop and then we were going uphill that whole time, and then we got married. And then I feel like every step on the down slope of the mountain led to online business, led to the flipped lifestyle, led to this place where God has put us right now in our life. And I look back and start connecting those dots, and I can see where every step after we got married pretty much brought us to the place we are today where we're, do what we do. We're changing lives. We're working with hundreds of entrepreneurs from all over the world to help them flip their life too. And it is just a really crazy story. How we get from coaching football in West Virginia to where we are now. So I hope you guys tune in next week to hear the rest of that story. And maybe you can start piecing together those puzzle pieces in your life, start connecting those dots, and realize that everything you have done to this point is leading to that next step, leading to your online business, leading to your success and where you are going to go. So until then, we will continue our story next week. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this best of edition of the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. We would love to help you take your next steps toward your goals. We have a free online business quick start course over at our website at flippedlifestyle.com. This course will help you set big goals and make them happen, find and validate your ideas today, and help you identify and find your perfect customers. Our online business quick start guide is a free resource, and you can get it right now over at flippedlifestyle.com. That's FLIPPED lifestyle.com. Head there right now and download your free resource today.